This is The Roxanne Show. Get ready. It's time to rise. Have you ever thought about the difference between a really good friend and a teammate? Well, don't worry if you haven't. You're about to learn that difference in this episode. I'm so excited to drop you into this. I think it's a very, very important difference. We need to be able to discern what is a great friend and what is a true teammate. I'm also going to talk about something that I think is so important and perhaps not spoken about enough when it comes to self-development and the journey of self-mastery and self-actualization. You being an individual that is so, so devoted to your growth, how does that affect the relationships that you have in your life? So stay with me this whole episode. I promise this is going to be really, really helpful for you to not only understand how to move in really healthy ways throughout all of your relationships, but it's going to help you keep your relationships in the highest state of their vitality and, be just giving you the best experience as well as the person on the other side. So let's dive in. The first place I want to start is, what is a teammate? So a teammate, from my perspective, is an absolute friend. You're just playing at a different level in life. You're meeting on a soul level, a heart and a soul level. You want each other to win so deeply at your own, so here, I'm your teammate. Roxanne is your teammate. Your goals, your vision, your dreams, they matter to me just as much as my own. So it's almost like they are mine too, right? I walk into a room and there's people in there that can make a massive difference in your evolution. I'm going to bring up your name. You are going through something that is really, really challenging. You're hurting. Or you just became a New York Times bestselling fucking author. Either or. You and I are going to be on the phone and I'm going to hold down some serious love for you, no matter what side of that spectrum emotionally you're on. You never, ever have to wait for me to ask me for help. Me being your teammate, I'm always right there. I'm always right there. Why? Because I'm riding life with you on a higher level. We're working together, kind of moving through the journey together, right? I'm very, very in a very deep state. And these are just a few examples of the teammate, right? And in my life, I feel very, very blessed to have incredible friendships and some hardcore fucking teammates. Now let me talk about friendships, because this is not about one being better than the other. Both friends and teammates are deeply valued and valuable in your life, right? It's just so important to know the difference. So you know how to play at those relationships, at the highest level, right? Friends are so sacred. They are nutrients for the heart. They invigorate and elevate your mindset. You're my friend, I'm your friend. We are in this life designed to have fun, to support each other, to make incredible memories together. And this is really important. Human connection and feeling, sense of community is one of the greatest levers in our well-being, in our vitality, our mental health, right? So having real friendships in your life is so, so important. Why is it important to understand the difference between a teammate and a friend, a good friend? Let's just call it good friend. Because, again, you're playing at different levels. So if you, approach a good friend in some certain situations like a teammate, you might be let down. And not for any reasons that, like the friend is not doing a good job of being a friend. No, the friend is being a friend. The friend is just not playing at that teammate level, right? So let's just say you were hoping, you just became the New York Times bestselling author. And you would think that your friend, who totally adores you, who loves you and is totally happy for you, but maybe they're not celebrating you on the level that a teammate will. Because again, the teammate is doing this whole thing with you, this process of life with you. They're going through the motions with you, right? So if you look to your friend like they're your teammate and they're not giving that response that a teammate would, then you might feel let down, right? And that's not where you want to be with your friendships. I mean, it's certainly not where you want to be within yourself, right? And again, friend's not doing anything wrong. Friend is just being a good friend, and giving whatever is authentic from their heart to you in that moment, right? That's just one small example. And I say this because, this is coming from my life experience, and me truly being able to identify who's who in my life. And it helps so much. It helps me to really keep these relationships at their highest state of health and of love and of respect. I'm not going to have some expectations from my friends that I will have in my teammates. And, we hear things like, oh, don't have any expectations. So I think it's another one of those statements that gets like generalized and it doesn't necessarily work all across the board. Let's use my shirt. Fucking Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls. You think they didn't have expectations playing on that court together? Of course they fucking did. They were in it to win it. And if you're in it to win it with each other, then you got to expect some things out of each other because it's trust. You're relying on each other. And that's not what you're going to do with all your friendships, right? So even understanding that right there puts it in perspective. And I think it's important actually to understand that it is 100% okay and wonderful and healthy to have certain expectations in certain relationships in your life, with your teammates being the focus here on that, So the goal of really being able to discern the difference is ultimately what? It's so that you can keep your friendships intact with love and with respect and, less friction. There's nothing wrong with friction. Friction will come up at times, but it's not, friction that's coming as a result of you expecting something from them that they're just not designed to give to you or vice versa. You know what I mean? It's really, really important to understand that difference, and when you do, then you can really give all of yourself, in the best way to your friendships and to your teammates. Now, let's talk about growth. Your growth mindset individual. If you are listening to this podcast or watching this on YouTube, comment below. Now, if you're tuned into my channel, any of, wherever you get it from, Instagram, all of it, you're likely a growth mindset individual because that's how I function. It's, who I am and all of the subjects and, topics that I talk about are for growth mindset individuals, right? Or someone who is at least reaching to have more of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, right? When you are on the path of self-mastery and self-actualization, self-development, self-improvement, you're just constantly reaching for more growth. And ultimately, you are creating your life to continuously extract the very best of you, to be operating from higher and higher and higher levels of self-expression, right? When you are doing this, you are going to have some relationships come in and maybe they're really incredible for a certain period of time. And as you continue to grow, some of those relationships are going to grow out of your picture. And I think it's so important to respect the process, even if it hurts. I know in my own life, I've had relationships like that where it's like, oh my gosh, we were homies for so long, and really healthy, just like great friendships. But as my interests started to shift, which then would also shift my behaviors, my habits, my standards, my focus, it started to shift the dynamic and the connection ultimately to the friendship, right? And I mean, that's happened several times. Nothing went wrong. There was no argument and now we just don't talk. It's just, you fall, like the distance starts to come in to the picture because you have less to connect on. And the reality is that, most of our friendships, and this is healthy, right? If you're in a toxic friendship, then, you're bonding for toxic reasons, ultimately, truly. But for the healthy, I'm speaking to healthy relationships here. It's always coming down to an alignment, situation, like what you feel a connection to this individual for. You feel connected, on some or many levels with the individual, right? And when things start to shift, and they will undoubtedly shift when you are on the path of growth, and that's a big focus for you in your life, then those relationships, some of these relationships are going to start to disconnect and really ultimately what happens is a misalignment, because it all comes down to alignment, especially your really good friends. At some point, I mean, I've had in my own life, again, I constantly pull on my own life because this is where I can speak, with real wisdom. I've lived these experiences and I understand them and I've metabolized them very deeply, and I mean, I've had the experiences where some of the friendships just naturally fizzled, naturally became misaligned because, like I said, the growth happened and then changes happened in the values and the interests and the focus. And so, you're just not calling that person anymore, or they're not calling you anymore, the energy isn't there to pull you together anymore. Then there have been experiences where, unfortunately, you don't see a certain friendship about to phase out or really come to an end. But there is a slow moving misalignment that does start to develop, and maybe an abrupt moment where you're just, now it's a wrap, because maybe some of what your growth, like how you are moving now in your life, is so different than your friend. And perhaps it triggers certain insecurities or feelings within that individual that now creates friction and misalignment, or it could just simply be that you just don't see life the same way. Like you kind of look at your perspective towards life just doesn't connect much anymore, and that sucks, when it's someone that you truly believed and felt that you would be doing the whole journey of life with, and it's hard. And I've been there and it hurts and it fucking sucks. But when you truly understand really the laws of the universe, how everything is energy and everything comes down to alignment, even your goals. If you don't feel aligned to whatever it is that you want to experience in your life, whatever goal you want to accomplish, you're going to have a really hard time accomplishing that goal. You have to be in alignment with it. It's just the laws of the universe. It is not fucking poetry. I mean, I think it's actually pretty poetic, but that's because I am a poet. But I mean, it's an energetic force. It's just how it works. So I think it's important because when we understand, when we can respect the laws of the universe and we can respect that it really just does come down to, alignment and misalignment, in my own experience, again, just going back to that one that I just shared with you, as much as it hurt and as much as it sucked and as much as I didn't want it to be the truth, that someone who, I really thought I'd be doing the rest of my life with. And by the way, life is still going. So you just never know, because then I'll tease this out in a second too, how sometimes you can become misaligned and then all of a sudden you become realigned. Talk about that in a second. But, in that moment, as much as it sucks and it hurts and it's, you don't want it to be true. What you don't want to do, what I don't do or did not do, is discredit my growth, is really disrespect where I'm at in my life with myself. Because again, understanding how things work, and then this is also really helpful too, because you don't necessarily, I mean, there's so many different examples and I obviously can't go through all of them. So I'm just kind of pulling on one in my own life, but this individual didn't do anything necessarily wrong. They're just moving from their own belief system, their own relationship with themselves and what they, however they're perceiving life, their own energetic state, and from all of that, there was a misalignment with my own. Queen, this is your call to greatness. If you are ready, and I mean truly ready, to shift anything in your outer experience, your outer reality, your finances, your health, your relationship, anything career related, anything spiritual, any shift that you want to make that has to do with your reality has to first start with shifting who you are, your self-identity. My Future Self digital course is your supportive blueprint that helps you achieve this. The inner shapes the outer. So when you get crystal clear on your core beliefs, your core values, your core desires, your high, hard goals, when you learn how to rewrite parts of your past that maybe don't feel so great and instead leverage those experiences to be fuel for you to expand and to grow, this is how you start to change the game behind the game of life, which all starts and ends with you. I've designed this course from my heart, soul, and experience to be a femininely fierce experience for you to uncover and connect with your most authentic self. And as a Future Self student, you get 3 months free membership access to Queendom. This is where we really get to connect. Queendom is such a rad, sacred, empowered space where every month you get a live Q&A call with me so we can connect and troubleshoot any area of your life that you would like, or just get some encouragement from me as well as the other queens in the community. This is a really sacred space, and I will see you in Queendom. So I can't even look at this individual and, have this attitude. And this also comes down to consciousness. The more that your consciousness is expanded, the more that you can actually step outside like this and you're not so me-centric. I did a whole episode on that. I'll put it in the show notes on consciousness. More to come on that subject too. But yeah, when you have more of an expanded consciousness and you understand the laws of the universe, you're not so self-centric like that. And you're able to just go, like it is what it is. You're over there. I'm over here. It's not a wrong. I'm not saying people can't do wrong things, but I'm just saying like, you're just doing you, and they're just doing them like in your life, And so it really helps to just for you independently, like for you to be able to process the experience with so much more mastery in your emotions. Because people, one of my best friends, Matthew Gottesman, he always says like humans will be humans, And I think, especially again, when you are a growth mindset individual and you're, changing, for your own better in life, like this is going to happen. You could be somebody who maybe at a certain point in your life, health didn't matter to you much. Like you were just not caring much about your nutrition, your movement. You didn't really exercise, train, whatever. You preferred, having cocktail nights several times during the week, like whatever. I'm not going to, start attacking all the different ways to be unhealthy. But let's just say that was your norm. And at that segment of your life, you had certain friends that you were very connected to because you guys were able to share those habits, those interests, that focus, But then all of a sudden, health came in for whatever reason, and you started to change, and your behavior started to change. Your habits started to change. You don't want a cocktail, several times throughout the week because you want to get up and you want to feel really good so you can hit the gym before you go to work, whatever. And then all of a sudden you're reading books on self-development and or learning how to eat more nutritious foods, and oh my gosh, these nutritious foods are making you feel so good that now you're just not wanting to watch, a bunch of TV. Like you want to go listen to that live podcast show or just, do things that are going to continuously, grow your mind, or you're going to start a side hustle, like a little, a business that's going to, be, bringing in more cash flow or whatever. And now all of a sudden you have less to connect with those friends or that friend that you did before. And they have less to connect on you with too. So what are you going to do? And a lot of people do this. This is also why it's so important. You got to respect your growth. Don't try and fit a square peg in a round hole. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. There's going to be times where that is going to be, that's going to, these situations are going to come into certain moments of your life. And if you try and grip at them and hold on to them and you feel the resistance, like now you're just kind of either people pleasing, or you're, like it's like you feel bad, you don't want to, so you're not being authentic. You're not being genuine. This is a disaster zone. It will not end great. I promise you. It's not going to lead to, unless you guys both get on the same page again, it's not going to lead to anything great. You're going to feel like shit for not being true to yourself and trying to play at somebody else's level that isn't your level. So then you're not really even able to grow to the extent of, your potential, and it's not going to be great for the other person either. It's not honest to them. So the point being here is that when it's time to grow, it's time to go. And honestly, that can open up a whole nother podcast discussion. It could be leaving the job. It could be whatever. But I know that a lot of people stump their growth, and don't respect their growth because they're trying to keep certain things intact, like situations in this, context of the episode. It's relationships, friendships, that just are not in alignment anymore, right? So don't do that or do it and then discover why you don't want to do that, Let's talk about having certain relationships go from alignment to misalignment to realignment. Because I've also had that experience in my life where, you quote unquote grow apart, for all the reasons that I just shared with you, right? But time moves on, you keep growing, the individual keeps growing in their own way, and all of a sudden, for however it happens, you come back into each other's life. But this time, you're certainly not who you were, and this individual, this friend, also isn't who they were. But where you are meeting now is on a heightened level of alignment. And now your relationship has a sense of renewal to it that is a match again, and you feel it. You know how you really know when it's healthy, be it a friend, a teammate, because it just flows. You don't have to fucking try and like manipulate it to make it healthy and intact and grow. It just flows. You just flow with the person, which doesn't mean that friction can't come up. One of the differences between a teammate and a friend, in my opinion, is when friction comes up, because it likely will, teammates run towards each other. Friendships might not. And that's okay. And that could result in the end of a friendship, or maybe just a moment, or you just have some scenarios with friends that you just can't have those hard moments with. And that's okay. It doesn't mean they're a bad friend or it's not it's an unhealthy friendship. Teammates don't play like that though. Teammates know that when friction arises, you run towards each other. You don't play any fucking games. You're not hiding shit. You go. I know in my own life, and my teammates know, I will run right towards your face. Not aggressively. No, not even. I want to get to the truth, and I want to get there in the healthiest way, and I want to get there as fast as I can. so that the health of the relationship can be kept intact. Because on the opposite of this, when things get buried and when things, just are ignored, maybe you're running the other way from each other. Oh my gosh, the miscommunication, the scripts, the stories that are running through your mind. I mean, it just builds really negative friction energy that's so fucking unnecessary. And you know what? If it's a relationship that you can kind of live with or not live with, you're not going to put the effort of having the hard conversations, because sometimes the conversation will be fucking hard. But when it's someone that you're playing at that different level with, and the relationship ultimately really matters to you. I mean, even in your friendships, then you're going to have those hard conversations, and you're going to do it with reverence, and not be so self-centric and, have an attitude. Like you want to hear the person out. You want to be able to share your feelings. And if you can't do that with that person, then, I don't know what that relationship is, right? But I do know that teammates can handle really hard conversations, again, because they're on the same team, like back to the court. Like they're going to have those frictiony moments, and they're going to go toe to toe with each other. That sounds aggressive, but I'm not meaning it to be aggressive. They're going to have healthy conversations to dismantle whatever that issue is, so that they can keep it moving alongside each other and keep playing to win at life together. And that's so important to know that difference, so your relationships really matter, on every level. Friendships, teammates, romantic partners, like coworkers, your peers, they really affect our reality, right? They influence us individually, like what we believe about ourselves. They absolutely influence what we believe is possible. Like my fucking teammates are gangsters, like straight up. Not to describe my friends, I got high level playing friends too, but just to hone in on the teammate situation for a second. I mean, they're bad motherfuckers. They're not playing at anything less than championship like wins in life. Hardcore. That affects me. That's certainly how I'm playing. It's mutually happening, right? And so, when I think about my teammates, and again, I know who my true teammates are. I fucking know the difference. And I love that I do know that difference, because again, it helps me just keep everything stays so healthy in the dynamics of my friendships and my relationships, But when you can really understand this, and when you can look into your circle, and even if you've got one teammate, that's amazing. But that influence on each other is so powerful. I mean, again, all of our relationships are influencing us. So it's really important to pay attention to who's in your life. And I'll just throw this in because this is important. It always comes down to you, by the way, because we call in that which we believe we are. You're not going to call in a fucking excellent teammate. That's if you don't function that way. I'm my own teammate, first and foremost. I'm playing at that level with myself, not letting myself play small, encouraging myself, there for myself. Like I will make sure that I live as boldly as I can so that I can self-express at the highest levels that I possibly can, right? So this is me being my own fucking teammate, throughout my life. And that also helps me be a great teammate for others in my life, right? But you cannot, in any area of your life, call in that which you do not believe you are. So that has to be really registered here, because you can sit here and want the teammate and that ultimate friend, but if you're not playing at that level, even with yourself, then it's going to be really, really hard to call it in. Why? Because again, this is just the laws of the universe. We attract not what we want. We attract that which we are, that which we believe we are, right? So if that means you need to do some work, journaling work, and really think about how you're moving through your life in partnership with yourself. Are you being a good friend to yourself? When things get really hard, do you run from yourself or do you run towards yourself? And that shit is not easy to do, I know. But I will tell you right now that when that becomes your default setting, holy shit, now you're playing at a higher level in life. Run towards yourself and be able to, face hard parts of your being or, your life experiences, where usually maybe you want to kind of run away, ignore, or numb. But all of this is going to help you when you're playing at that level of friendship and teammate. You're that even in romance, if you want to call in the most incredible, loving, respected, trustworthy, loyal relationship in your life, well, how are you playing on those levels with yourself? Are you moving through your life with real love for yourself? Do you trust yourself? Are you showing that to yourself in life? What's the self-respect like? Like, is that very apparent to you? Do you feel a lot of respect for yourself? Do you feel worthy of that love? I mean, it's gotta be embodiment. It can't just be up here in the head, like the idea of it. You have to fully embody that which you are calling into your life for it to show up in your life. So, lots dropped in this episode for you to think about. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know if this, inspired you to, think about your relationships, more deeply and, just tag, if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know the difference between friends and teammates. Tag your teammates. On Instagram, I put up a post actually recently with my teammate, Carrie Walsh Jennings. I love you, fucking sister. And it was cool. And it was all about friends and teammates. And it was rad to see so many women underneath, like tagging their teammates. So it's a very deep subject to me, but I think it's also a very meaningful idea and concept for most people, the masses to think about. Really, really important. So I hope you loved this episode, or it just gave you something to think about that will be supporting you in your relationships, not only out here, but especially and always with yourself first. Let me know what you think. If you have not already rated this podcast 5 stars and given us a review, I would love that support. My team would absolutely appreciate it so much too. In the show notes, if you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description. There is a link that you can click on to make that quick 5-star review. And again, it means so much to me and my team. So, all right, you guys, I will catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review.